All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out. I'm sure most of you are aware of our special guest here tonight. There's a few new people here, I noticed as well, because we get new people at our club every week. But this is quite an honor and a treat to have this gentleman here giving this lecture. He's been here a couple times in the past, so some of you may remember him. I think a lot of you, does everybody here know who this gentleman is? Is there anybody that doesn't know? So, do you guys know who Carl Nakamura is? You don't know? You know who Carl is?
I've heard his name, but I've never seen him.
Very good. Well, he's not only known as Hikaru Nakamura's stepfather, he's also a world-renowned chess coach and author. And I'm very fortunate to have known him for a number of years now. He's a very good friend of mine, and we're very lucky to have him returning back to our little club here, and it's quite an honor. So this is Sunil Weeramantry. He just recently stepped down. He was the founder of the National Scholastic Chess Foundation, and he's been a coach in almost 40 years now. We have a couple copies of his books over there. Some of you probably already know some very famous books. And it's just, I can't say enough things. He's such a nice gentleman. I've been to so many different events with him, and it's just an absolute honor that we have him here visiting our club. And then I'll let him introduce this other young man next to him here. He's also been to our club several times. I think a number of you might remember him as well. So.
And John, before you leave, I want to say something about you.
Yeah. So anyway, I've got a couple cameras set up, and you'll see me kind of going around. I'm going to do some photos. We're actually going to put a nice little write-up in our next Colorado Chess Informant, which is coming out in about a week. So, so if you see me going around taking pictures, don't be worried. I'm not. But we're going to do a recording, and I'll have all this put up on our website eventually for the club. And so, without further ado, Sunil Weeramantry.
Thank you, John. So before John leaves or runs around taking pictures, I just want to say that when I grew up, clubs formed a very important part of my chess career. My dad moved out to Switzerland when I was about 11 years old, so my formative years in chess were at the Geneva Chess Club in Switzerland, and that's where I really got good. And then I was in England, and then I was over here, but clubs always formed a very important part of my growing up. And so it was very sad to see clubs just kind of collapsing in the United States. And I think maybe part of that was due to the internet and so forth, and online play. But so I think John is doing a tremendous job here, bringing chess clubs back, and so whatever I can do to help, I will definitely do that. So thank you, John. You're doing a wonderful job.
Well, you're welcome. And if I could add one more point, speaking of the clubs, so I've been very fortunate. This gentleman right here, Lloyd Guthier, I don't know if you've met him.
He introduced him as
So
Colorado Springs, right?
Yeah. And so he's been helping me with the Colorado Chess Inform. We will be getting the chess clubs in our state updated, and he's been a big part of it.
Yes.
And we're going to have a new updated list coming out in a week on in our Colorado Chess Informant. We'll have links to all the clubs, but he's done a lot of tireless work in contacting and getting rid of clubs that are no longer in existence, and obviously finding the ones that are still running.
Yeah, no, that's an invaluable service if you can do that,
Yep.
because people moving to the area would always like to know where there's an active club,
And I do it because I played in high school, then quit for 42 years. I
Yes.
retired 2 years ago, and trying to find a place to play over-the-board chess was really hard.
Yes.
So I started working with the Colorado State Chess
So,
Association.
but you need
started
people like
researching.
both of you to be actively involved, and
Yeah.
so thank you. On behalf of the entire chess community, thank you for what you're doing.
Well, very good. And I'll let you introduce
Okay,
Chris.
yeah, this guy over here, yeah. So for those of you who don't know, this is Chris Littlejohn. Yeah, that's really his name, Littlejohn.
It really is.
And so if you do your research, you'll find it's Scottish. They had Littlejohns over in Scotland. Chris is my son's trainer, and has been for how long, Chris? Long time?
17, 18 years.
Yeah, yeah, it's been,
Been a while.
and so Chris is always the main trainer, and then we usually have a team of GMs, depending on the tournament. I'm in the process of setting up the team for the candidates next year. So thanks for coming. I mean, now I have to be careful what I say, you know.
Oh, that's all right. It's a pretty short little hop down from Brack.
Yeah. Yeah, he likes to ski, so he lives in Bracknell. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate you being here.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't miss it. I'll let you get started.
And I have the services of my two little friends here, the Krish, who's, I guess, well known in Colorado, right? And Marcin, who, so they'll be putting the same position on that board because it'll be a little easier for you on that side of the room. Okay, so somebody asked me what was I going to talk about today. I said, I have no idea. I'll make it up as I go along. But that's only partly true. I do have an idea. But I think in the end, there are lots of ways to study chess. I see a lot of young players here, and there is no one method that is better than the others. And you really have to find what you enjoy doing. In the end, and speaking to the parents here, you cannot expect your kids to put all their effort into something if they're not also enjoying it. Because I made that mistake myself with Hikaru. When Hikaru broke master, I thought I'll accelerate his progress. And so I called up a friend of mine who's a grandmaster and has worked with Karpov and was on Karpov's team. And I said, would you like to work with my son? And he said, yes, of course. And that arrangement lasted all of 3 lessons. So one Sunday morning, I go to wake Hikaru up and I say, Hikaru, time to go to the tournament. And I said, Dad, I think I'll stay in bed today and I'll watch the Yankees. So I knew something was wrong because he'd never said that before. And so I asked him, what's wrong? And he said, well, so-and-so coach wants me to study 100 Morphy games, and then he wants me to do 100 Tarrasch games. And so, I look online, I look at Vishy's games, and I look at, Kasparov games, and he told me, and so why do I have to study dead people? That's a good question. Nobody ever asked me that before. But then the kicker was that the coach wanted him to stop playing blitz. And Hikaru, of course, he loves playing blitz. I mean, that's one of the things he really always liked to do as a kid. And I realized that taking the blitz away from him would be taking away the one part of chess that he really enjoyed. So I said, no, you can play chess. You can play blitz if you want to. That's okay. And I was wrongly criticized for that because, the prevalent feeling was if you play blitz, you're not serious because you're not thinking. And if you don't think about your moves, then how can you ever expect to get better? And I'm ruining this talented kid and all that kind of stuff. And of course, all it showed was that there are different ways to the top. And so my advice to all of you, especially to the parents, is let your kids tell you what they enjoy as well. Because in the end, it has to come from them. Because no matter how well-intentioned you are, after the age of 12 or 13, you're not going to be able to force them to play. So, anyway, that's the parenting part of me. So why do I play still? Why bother? I had my head bashed in enough times. And I realized that there's a part of the game that really interests me, and I find very enjoyable. And I'm going to try and share that with you, and maybe that'll, open your eyes a little bit. I think chess is a very rich game, and every once in a while, if you're fortunate, you can play a really good game yourself. But even if you don't, you can appreciate a really good game played by somebody else. And I think that a lot of you now, when you study, as the kids, when you study, you either study, you do the STEPS program, or you do a whole lot of puzzles on ChessKid, or something like that. You know, doing puzzles is great, but it's limited. Because puzzles will give you a sense, it's only a part of the whole, it's not the whole. You know, if you want to catch the excitement of chess, you need to be able to play the whole game and see the puzzles or the individual moves within the context of what happened, you know, in that game. And I think for that reason, don't underestimate the value of going through famous games and trying to understand, you know, what those players were thinking when they actually went through the games. And, you know, I think the part of chess that really excites me the most is checkmate. I mean, okay, why not? I mean, that is the point of the game. But if you talk to people who do puzzles all the time, they may not even know that. You know, they may say, like, you know, what is the best discovered attack here? No, the point is checkmate. In the end, you want to checkmate the king. And there are different ways to go after the king, and so the first game I would like to do is a very famous game. It lasted all of, I don't even know how many, maybe 11 moves, but it was played at the turn of the century by two very famous world-class players. The player playing white was Richard Wetty, who was a grandmaster from the Czech Republic and Austria as well. And black was Savieli Tartakova. I'm sure a lot of you know this game. This is just to get you guys, you know, to get you started, okay? So here we go. Oh, you want to move the pieces? I'll just call them with you can move the, okay. Yeah, future Colorado State champion, right, Krish? Okay. Okay, so the game started, it was a Karo Khan. Reddy was playing white. E4, C6, D4, D5. So for those of you who don't know your openings, because I'm told there are some new players here, this is known as the Karo Khan opening. It was named after two chess players, Mr. Karo and Mr. Khan. They had a play date and they made up the Karo Khan. So anyway, there are different ways for white to respond, obviously. You see the contact between the pawns here. There's my stick, there you go. So if you don't behave, you know you're in trouble. Okay. So whenever the pawns are in contact, you can either trade, you can avoid contact by pushing up, or you can defend yourself. All those moves are playable in the Karo Khan. In this game, white played the move knight to c3, protecting the pawn on e4. And black played pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn. And the normal move here, for those of you who like this opening, who want to study it, the move that's played, was played a lot by Garry Kasparov when he was younger, is bishop f5. That's called the classical variation, attacking the knight. The knight simply goes to g3, attacks the bishop right back, and you can study it yourselves, you know. So that's probably the most popular line in this position, which is bishop f5. So instead, black played knight f6 here. And this is an interesting move, because they're offering a trade. I mean, why not play knight takes knight? You know, when I was young and learning these openings, you know, I was wondering about knight takes knight, and at the time, black always took back with the g pawn. Could you put those down on the board, you see? Knight takes knight, pawn takes knight, g pawn takes. Okay. And the players who promoted this idea with black were saying that black could now put a rook on g8 and use this file, because white is most likely going to castle kingside. You can generate some pressure down the g file. So this was the idea behind letting this happen. Okay? So then, many, many years later, Anatoly Karpov comes around and says, well, Why don't you take with the e-pawn? And, well, there's a good reason you're not supposed to take with the e-pawn, and that is if you look at the chessboard, you see a clear division in the pawn structure between the king side and the queen side, right? And you have a 4-3 active majority on the queen side, and black has a 4-3 dead majority on the king side. So Karpov, and it was ironic that Karpov would say this because he's the one who always liked, pawn structures and so forth. Normally, white would just play to get a queen side, pass pawn on the queen side, castle king side, and try to win the game that way. But basically, you can get a lot of counterplay. It's very interesting. But you can play moves like bishop d6. That's a good diagonal for that bishop. You'll have the two bishops pointing on those two diagonals. And, you can argue. But this is what actually makes chess interesting. Nobody knows for sure. Is it better to take with the g pawn and try to use the g file to generate an attack? Or is it better to take with the e pawn and try to use the two bishops on those diagonals? And to me, the fact that we cannot give a clear answer on that is really what makes this game interesting. All right. Well, none of this happened, of course. I have a habit of showing everything that didn't happen. So if we can put the knight's on f6. Okay? So knight takes pawn, knight f6, and it's white's turn. So white plays a move that's something unusual move. I mean, if you wanted to protect this knight, normally you would play the move bishop d3, right? This would be the most logical move to protect the knight because you're developing a piece and you're protecting the piece that was under attack. But there's a problem with playing bishop d3, right? So somebody who's new, can you tell me what is the problem with bishop d3? Are there new players here today? You are new, right? And you guys look like you know what you're doing, so I don't really believe you're new. But anyway, can you tell me what is the problem with putting a bishop on d3? Can you do that here so that we can see? If white played bishop d3 to protect the knight, right?
Yeah.
What would black do?
He would trade.
He would do what?
He would trade off the knights.
He would trade off, but then at least it's equal. I think white has a problem here. You see the problem?
There's an open place, so black can attack.
But be more specific. What is black going to attack?
Queen.
So what's he going to do?
You're gonna move the bishop to e4.
No, actually no. Be careful of that move, okay? Can you do that? I just want to show our friend here. This move is not a good move in this position because who is protecting this bishop?
The knight.
Aha! What do you think I'm going to do now?
Knight takes
Knight, check, and thank you for the bishop.
Oh.
You see? So be careful, okay? So that's not the problem. Anyone else? Yes?
The pawn thing.
The pawn's hanging, yes. This pawn on d4 is hanging. You can simply play the move queen takes d4. And this is a very annoying move, I once tried to prove that this capture was actually bad for black, that white got so much counterplay, but it's not true. You can play knight f3, attack the queen will just run away and say thanks for the pawn. You just don't have enough. You see, so for that reason, in this game, white did not play the move bishop d3. And he played the move, a very strange move, played the move queen d3 instead. Can you just do this? Yeah. Now, normally you do not use the queen like this because the queen would be, you're not supposed to get the queen out early, right? What does it mean, getting the queen out early? What does that mean to you?
It's going to be targeted or not?
It's going to be targeted, right? Okay? But what if the queen came out early and she couldn't be targeted? Is it okay to have the queen out early?
Yeah.
Look, if you're crossing a busy street and there are cars coming from both sides, and all the cars are stopped, right? Can you cross the street safely?
No. Yeah.
Of course you can. There's nobody coming at you. Right? So I mean, the danger is a function of whether you're able to be attacked or not, right? So you could argue that the move queen to d3 is actually okay, because if you place knight takes knight and the queen takes back, seems to me that the queen is in the center of the board and she cannot easily be targeted. Who's going to attack her? Yeah? With a pawn. But then, if you do that, okay, let's say, I assume this is what you're thinking, right? Pawn to f5 attacking the queen. You see, I'll tell you something. That pawn move is a short-term attack and a long-term problem. Because what's happening is, you are attacking the queen, it's true. But when the queen will move away, she's obviously not going to stay there. And this pawns can't go backwards, right? So this pawn is going to permanently block this bishop. You see? So the scope of your bishop has been reduced by playing this move. I wouldn't play that pawn move. Okay? For that reason. So, chess is full of moves like this, where you can play a move that looks good for the moment, but in the long run, it can be a problem. Okay? Short term versus long term. All right? Okay. So, anyway, this did not happen, of course. So let me just go back, put the knights back. And black actually got greedy here. Black played the move, but let me just make sure I get the order right here. What happened to my... This I love computers. If you detected a little bit of sarcasm in my voice. Yeah. Here we go. By the way, one of the reasons I like this game is that it's one of the shortest games between two great players. Normally when two really great players meet, the games get dragged out. This game lasted all of 11 moves. Okay, e5. So I need to talk about this move. If you think e5 is a good move, raise your hand. That's the wrong way to ask the question because nobody's going to raise their hand. Can somebody tell me what's wrong with e5? Yeah, don't be scared to answer questions. Especially, don't be scared of being wrong. Okay? I teach in a school for gifted kids and they hate being wrong, which is why we do chess. Yes?
It's wrong because once they take your pawn, even if you take the queen, they can either take with your bishop or pawn and defend your e4 knight.
Mm-hmm. So that's good. That shows me you're thinking ahead and your calculation is pretty good. So what you're saying, what is your name?
Vian?
I'm sorry?
Vian?
Vihan? Okay, what Vihan is saying is that if white plays pawn takes pawn in this position, then even if black were to trade queens, you could take back, I probably would take with the bishop, may as well develop a piece, right? Take with the bishop and you protect this knight and you just want a pawn here, right? Okay, well, of course black knew this, but he had a very sneaky, but he was actually trying to be too clever. I'll explain what I mean in a moment. The general principle involved here is do not open the center until your king is safe. All right? What black did here was to open the center with e5. It is too much of a gamble when you're black, because you're already a move behind to start with, and you're going to end up in trouble. All right? Watch what happens. So, pawn e5 was met by pawn takes pawn. Now, along the lines of what Vihan said, if knight takes knight, then simply queen takes knight. Queen is very well placed in the center. By the way, you know, when I was talking about the queen coming into the center and it being fine if she could not be attacked, right? Think about it. The queen is the only piece that can go in all directions. Which part of the board would you want to be on?
The center.
The center, because from the center you can go everywhere, right? So why doesn't the queen always go into the center? It's because she will get chased away, right? But if she cannot get chased away, the center is a great place to be. Okay, so remember that, okay? All right. What you'll find as you continue your journey in chess is that at your age and at your rating levels, chess is a game of rules, and then when you get to a certain level, you find you break all the rules. Okay. So, why did black knowingly let this happen? Because he thought he was being very clever. He had seen queen a5 check. Right? Now you see the point of queen a5 check. Because the queen is not, this is not the main point. The main point is the attack on the center pawn, right? So he played queen a5 check. White, of course, played bishop d2. You can play bishop d2. Sorry. And the queen took the pawn. Okay. And black thought everything is good, because he got his pawn back. But he's been wasting a lot of time. Now, in chess, you can't just produce attacks out of nothing. Okay? You need to develop your pieces. If you don't develop your pieces, then you shouldn't be playing chess. You know, I have been known in kindergarten classes, Chris. I did this at Hunter. So the kids are playing, and you know, I let them say, okay, develop all your pieces. Here are the rules of development, right? Okay, so I let them play 10 moves, and then I just walk around the room. What would you do? And this is probably unfair because you really need to know the tactic. But okay, so let me just tell you. Okay, all right, go ahead. What will you do?
Knight to f3.
Knight to f3 is a reasonable move, but you forgot one thing. How many times is your knight on e4 being attacked? So what's he going to do? He's going to play queen takes knight. Queen takes queen, knight takes queen, you're down a piece. See? Okay, good try, okay? But by the way, always answer questions, okay? And don't be scared of being wrong. Okay, just answer questions. Yes?
You can try moving pawn to f3.
You could try to move, but let me ask you this. Is pawn to f3, would you count that as a developing move?
No.
Not really, right? Well, what's a developing move to you? What do you understand by a developing move? What kind of moves would you consider to be developing moves?
Taking out your minor
Are you
pieces.
brothers?
Yeah.
Nothing like it is brother, right? Go ahead.
Developing your minor pieces.
Yeah, no, close. Developing minor pieces. Okay, so we could argue that your brother's move is not developing a minor piece, right? Okay. But certain pawns are considered to be developing moves, right? Which pawns?
The D2 pawn and the E.
Yeah, the E and D pawns, the two center pawns, right? Is F3, would you consider F3 a developing move? No. I think you're wasting a move. You know, you're wasting a move, and in fact, you will be taking away a very natural developing square for your knight for the future, even though we cannot play knight f3 right now. You see? Because pawns can't go backwards, so what are you going to do? Once you put a piece on that square, you can't put something else on that square, right? So you have to think, you have to always be thinking, down the line, not immediate. Okay, so, yes, do you have a good developing move?
Castle Queen side.
Okay, and what's your name?
Ane.
Ane?
Yes.
A-N-A-Y?
Yes.
Okay, very good. How old are you?
10.
10, very good. I would have played that move when I was 10, but then I was no good when I was 10. Okay. Very, very good move, but Ane, I cannot accept the move without you answering what would happen if this, if he took the knight, because you castle and then he has a double attack on the knight, right?
Then you can do rookie one and it's spin.
Oh, you can do rook a1 and spin. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. Let's see. I mean, he can play, for example, what can he do? Maybe it does work. But he could still defend it, and then maybe you could attack it again, right? Okay, all right. You know what, let me just show you the game, because you'll see what happened. Of course, he castled long. Okay, but he did castle long in this position. And Black thought here that White had made a real mistake, and he played knight takes knight. And this, the reason I said at the start, this is one of the games that all of you should know, because this is maybe one of the best examples in chess of what we call a magnet combination. Magnet combinations also is another term for a combination of attraction, right? The magnets can either repel or attract. So you have a magnet combination, you're going to pull him onto a certain square, and then you're going to kill him. Yes, what's the move? Yeah. Look at this move. Look at this move. Probably one of the greatest examples in the history of chess. Queen D8 check.
That's difficult.
What?
You just think.
I know, isn't it crazy? It is crazy, but that's what's so nice about it. That sometimes crazy works. You have to actually be willing to consider these options. No, what this is, I'll break it down for you. Of course, he has no choice, he has to take the queen. And what this is called, this particular combination, yes, I mean? Yeah, so it's attraction into a double check. Attraction in the sense of pulling towards, right? Pulling him to a square where you can now deliver a double check. Now, double checks are extremely dangerous. Why are double checks so dangerous? Tell me.
Because
Vihan, right?
Because they could kind of get mated, and plus on double chess you can even win a piece. You kind of get to.
Okay, hold on a second, okay? What's your name? I'm sorry? Spell it. T-A-R, Tarun. Okay, what do you say, what is the problem that the defender has in answering a double check? Yes. The only way out of a double check, very good, Tarun. The only way out of a double check is to move your king. Can you block a double check?
No.
Obviously not, there's somebody else checking you. Can you capture the piece on a double check? No, because there's somebody else checking you, right? The only way out is to move the king. Okay, now there are two double checks. Pick the right one. Because if you pick the wrong one, you just gave away your queen just because you're a nice guy. Okay? Which is the correct double check? Yes, sir.
I would say bishop to g5.
You don't like bishop to a5? I mean bishop to a5? Yeah. That's a double check also. Did you look at both and decide that one, or did you just see bishop g5? I'm just not sure, so I'm asking you. I'll admit bishop g5 is the more natural move. Parents don't have to act so scared. You can answer questions too. Okay, let's put this 10-year-old to the test. Okay, Annie.
Bishop g5, because if you do bishop a5, he can do king e7 and there's no way to mate. But if bishop g5, they can go king c7 and bishop d8 mate, or king d8 and rook d8 mate.
Very good. And have you seen this game before?
I've seen the end.
You've seen the end of it, but you haven't seen how it started, right?
Yeah.
So now at least you've seen it in context. Okay, so Anne is absolutely correct. What happens is when you check, when you check from here, you are covering the e7 square. So if the king goes towards the center, you checkmate him with rook d8, right? That's a well-known checkmating pattern. But what's nice is if he goes to c7, you have this very unusual bishop d8 checkmate. And so in this position, actually, black didn't resign. He gave white a chance to show off. So he actually did play king c7, and bishop d8 was checkmate. Okay? So this is an example of attraction into a double check. And this is probably the best known example in the history of chess of this particular type of combination. But in case you think it never happens, and this is a really isolated situation, okay, watch this next game. Okay, can we get the starting position here, please? Problem with these glasses, Chris, is that I can't see my computers.
Yeah, but you look like a professor.
What?
But you look like a professor, so it's...
Oh, yeah. But I do have lenses in there. Okay. But maybe the best known example, this is maybe, well, I don't know, maybe it's, both these examples are pretty well known. So around the turn of the century again, you know, they used to play this much more open, entertaining style of chess. And I think it goes back to the age of chivalry when, you know, if you did something I didn't like, I took a club and I threw it down and I challenged you to a duel, you know. So, and then if you refuse, you're considered a coward, right? So, you know, so people, when someone made a sacrifice, it was normal to accept it. Because if you didn't accept it, you were a coward. You know, so that's the sort of the history of, you know, of this. Okay, so at the turn of the century, that you all know that there was a famous world champion called Emanuel Lasker, right? Okay, but Emanuel Lasker was not the only Lasker just playing Lasker. He had a cousin, Edward Lasker, who was also a very strong player, not as famous as Emanuel. And this is a game that Edward Lasker played. And what I like about this game, just like the Carol Khan game that I just showed you, it's nice because it's clean. It comes out of a regular opening, you know? And you'll see that nothing unusual happens in this game either. Okay, so let's make the first moves. Pawn d4, right? D4, pawn e6, knight f3. Oh, you know, I hate all the coaches today who teach their kids to play d4 at knight f3. It's like, let's avoid contact for as long as possible, so my student will look a lot better, or will look good for at least 10 moves, that way the parent won't fire me immediately. Okay, knight f3. So black says, yeah, I don't like this dull and boring stuff. Let's play it like a Dutch. So f5. Okay, all right. But white plays this very well. Knight c3, knight f6. Come on, you can keep up with me. Bishop g5. Okay, so obviously black plays bishop e7. Nothing unusual here. Now, white's whole idea is to try to force in the move e4, but he cannot. Just move back a little bit so they can see better. But you can't play e4 right away because he has a knight and a pawn guarding that square, right? So naturally, white first plays bishop takes f6, Black plays bishop takes f6 back. And now white plays e4. So he gets in e4. All right. Black takes the pawn, white takes back with the knight. And there is no reason for black to give up his bishop pair. So he plays the bishop back to e7. This is all normal, very principled play on both sides. Okay, bishop e7. Oh, so he didn't play bishop e7. He castled, okay. So, this was 100 years ago, and you know what he was doing. Should have played bishop e7. Okay, so let me just make sure you got it right. Thank you. So the bishop is still there, and the bishop is there. Okay. All right. I mean, personally, the whole point of this line for black is to play bishop e7 and keep the bishop there. Okay, not to trade off. Okay, so this is a very slight error, I would say. White now plays a very interesting move. He plays, well, let's get back to our developing move stuff. So what's the best developing move for white? Yes?
Bishop to c4.
Oh, you like to go to c4? What are you going after this pawn? This pawn is pretty well protected, right? Why not go after this pawn? Isn't he a lot weaker? Right? He's only protected by the king. No, he played bishop g3 for that reason, okay? But you're right, it was a bishop move, okay? All right, bishop d3. Yes?
Also, like now, if they do knight takes f6,
Yes.
if he does, wait, I thought if he has like a bishop, he could play bishop g5 and trap the queen.
And trap the queen, but it's not a trap, right? And what did you just notice?
They don't have a bishop, they don't have a dark square bishop.
They don't have a task square bishop, but even if they did, the queen could go back to f7, right? Okay, but keep that in mind, okay? Anyway, bishop d3, but I think everybody can agree that targeting the h7 pawn is much more useful than targeting the e6 pawn. Right, would you agree with that?
Yeah.
The e6 pawn is better defended. Why go after a pawn that's better defended, right?
Yeah.
You know, look for the long-term attack, right? The pawn on h7. You know, when the king is the only defender of something, you have a pretty good attack, okay? All right, so watch what happens. It's an absolutely fascinating game. So now, black says, well, I got to develop my pieces, and I got a problem with my light square bishop. How am I going to get my light square bishop out? You know, it's very hard to get rid of two pawns from the same diagonal. So black decides to play pawn b6, right, and get the bishop out on the fianchetto. As those of you watching Hikaru likes to make fun of terms, he calls it the fianchetto, right? Okay. So, so pawn b6, and white plays a very good move here. He plays knight to e5, centralizing the knight. And he's inviting bishop takes knight, and pawn takes, and he'll be perfectly happy keeping control of these two squares of f6 and d6, f6 and d6. Okay, but there's another reason for moving that knight on f3. Can anybody at this stage of the game tell me what is the other reason? Hold it. You know, you're Bihan, and you're Agay, and you Turin, right? Turun. Tirun. No, spell it again for me. Oh, T-A-R-U-N, Tarun. Okay, all right, sorry. Go ahead.
Because it gets a queen out as well.
Right. When you have a knight on f3, you're blocking the queen's diagonal, right? So the ulterior motive of playing knight e5, right? I'm going to worry, I won't ask you to spell ulterior. The real point of playing knight e5 is to open the door for the queen. You understand?
Yeah.
And where do you think this queen is thinking of going? trying to go? What's the target? What is she looking at? What is the target?
The H7.
The H7 pawn, right? We talked about that, right? Greetings. Yes.
He wants to play queen h5 and open up the knight.
He wants, that's right. He wants to put the queen on that, then do something with the knight and kaboom, right? Okay. So he plays knight e5 and black plays bishop b7 because black is completing his development, right? So here comes queen h5. Now tell me what is, okay, you answered the question already. What white is threatening is to move the knight out of the way and checkmate on h7, right? So for example, white is going to play knight takes f6 check, followed by queen takes h7, checkmate, depending how he takes back, right? Okay, but no matter what, you don't want him taking that pawn on h7. So black came up with what he thought was a very clever defense. Black played the move queen e7. Now understand, these are good players, okay, who are playing this game. So somebody makes a threat, the other person usually understands what's happening. So, do you see how queen e7 guards against the threat? Yes?
Queen takes h7.
I'm sorry?
Queen takes h7.
No, so you'll take with the pawn. And then the queen will be defending along the rank. You see? So that was his way of trying to defend this. But poor guy, queen e7 is a really good try. It's a very good defensive move. Unfortunately, it wasn't good enough because white had an absolutely brilliant way of playing this position. Now, if you've been to other lectures of mine, you will know that I don't pick games at random. Right? I usually try to build from one to another. So why do you think I'm showing you this game now? Having shown you in a previous game. Think about it. Yes?
Queen takes a7.
Very good. If I'm getting you to think like that, then, you know, you're doing very well. Queen takes h7 because it is a...
It puts it's an attraction into a double check.
Attraction into a double check, right? Attraction into a double check. Boom! Queen takes h7 check. It's the last thing the guy was expecting. He had this clever defense line. No, he has no choice. He has to take the queen, right? And then what do you say?
That he would take the queen and they will try checking the king.
Yeah, but give me a move. What's the best move? Because there are different possibilities here. What is the best move for white?
9 goes to g5.
I would say, why not take a free piece if you can?
F6 pass.
F6 is hanging, right?
No, it's not.
Why not?
The pawn and queen are defending it.
Oh, really? Ever heard of a double check? Huh? Yeah, you know, he wishes it were defended that way, but he's in double check, right? So you may as well take it and give him a double check. But okay, now, what exactly did white see when he had played queen h7 check? I think he saw a certain amount, but he may not necessarily have seen everything. If you ask a chess player, what did you see at the time you made that move, they'll always lie, and they'll tell you they saw everything. What are you going to say?
Oh, no, I was waving at Brad.
Oh, okay. Oh, hi, Brad. How are you? Yeah, last time I saw you, I was playing against you across the board, right? Oh, wow, look at that.
This is the last game, we're last game.
Yeah, this is the last game, the last game, right? But it's a logical one to go to pair off with the Reddit cover, right? Yeah. You know, I just wanted to get them like style, you know. I mean, you look at a lot harder.
Now, mind you, this is Edward, not Emmanuel.
Yeah. By the way, you're a historian, so you would know the answer to this. Can you give me a date for this date? 19 what?
What do you say? This is Edward
Edward
Lasker
Lasker
versus
against
Towers.
Towers.
1912.
1912.
Yeah, it was early on because
Yes.
after this made Edward Lasker more famous.
Yes. So this is the game that's
It's like
played, right?
the cousin
And
of
deserve. Brian Wall, many times Colorado State champion.
No, I'm
Oh, yeah, oh, right. And Brad, another mainstay of the
But
Reform provinces.
we both were president.
Oh, you vote for president. That's right, okay. Okay, so here's a nice thing about this, all right. If the king goes back, and this is the beauty of it, right, then we get this really nice, who cares about forks, this really nice double knight checkmate. You see that? So when I believe that Lasker saw this, but how much more did he see? I don't know. I'll tell you what I think as we go along. So of course, Black saw that and he did not go back to H8. He said, okay, you sacrifice your queen, catch me if you can. And he came out to H6. Yes?
Knight to G4.
Well, that's all well and good, but both knights can go there. So which knight? Oh, this is not matter.
The E5 knight.
Well, you have to give me a reason why that and not the other one. Or why the other one and not that other one.
Because it's also defending that other knight.
Defending?
Because it's attacking it.
Okay, I'll accept that as a point. But there's a second reason. But I'll accept your answer as one point. Yes.
Knight the E5 knight, because the F6 knight is protecting two squares the king can move if there's a check.
Which squares are you talking about?
The H5 square and H7 square.
The H7 I'm not worried about, am I? Why am I not worried about H7?
The bishop is also.
Correct, because I already have the bishop guarding H7, right? But H5 could be critical. So why give him a choice, right? So yes, the answer is knight on E to G4 check. Your questions, yeah, you can go first. Sunil.
So, G5, that's the only move you can go.
Yeah, wait, okay, we'll get there, okay? But yeah, he has only one move now, right? Okay, you saw that, okay, and what were you going to say? You're going to say that also, okay, very good. All right, so let's go back to this. Of course, he plays king G5. He had no choice. Now, this is what a part of the game that I find particularly exciting, which is what I call the king hunt. You know, it's like, I don't know if you read stories or stuff, but you know, when you go on hunts, you just like beat the bushes and the animal comes out and then you kind of shoot at it, right? So, you know, this is the king, you know, you're beating the bushes and the king is coming out. He's going deeper, he's coming closer, and you're saying to the king, hey, come a little closer, come more towards me, keep coming, you know. So, the point here is that, do you think the king is going to survive out here?
No.
I mean, you have an extra queen. Isn't that going to help? Is the king still in trouble?
Yeah, because if the pawns keep doing multiple checks.
Ah, you see what happens. What's in it? I'm sorry? Spell it for me. Pawan?
Yeah.
Okay. You're right. You know, as a king travels deeper down the board, the other person's pawns become attackers because he's coming into range that the pawns can become attackers, right? So, of course, the move is pawn f4 check. Sorry, not pawn f4 check, pawn h4 check. Pawn f4 check is also possible, but this at least is protected, right? So the king has only one move. Where can the king go? Where can the king go, Prabha?
F4.
He has to go to F4, right? Okay, now, question. How far did Lasker actually see this? You know, I think maybe he didn't even see it beyond this, but he didn't need to see it beyond this. Because you know when that king keeps coming towards you, there are going to be multiple attackers, right? So have a little confidence, you know, and sometimes you can, you know, you're not trying to calculate the whole thing, you can actually say, use general principles to help you. I mean, you can see, look, there's never an army that I could think of in the history of the world where the commander-in-chief was in front of all his troops. You know, not unless you want to get killed, right? Okay, so now you're going to see something. If you haven't seen this game before, it's a game you should learn because it's just a fantastic game. What's the next attack? You sack your queen. You better keep attacking. If you don't, you just sack your queen. Okay, give me the next attacking move. Yes. Very good. And what's the only move he can make? Tarun. King F3. Come a little bit closer. Now keep attacking. You got to keep attacking. You can't stop now. What's the next attacking move? Yes. Oh, you forgot our little friend over here. He's going to take you, and that's going to be the end of your attack. Ah, be careful. Yes. Bishop to E2. Agree? Agree? If you had a choice, you would do that, right? Yeah, bishop to E2. Where can the king go?
Nowhere, it's fake.
Come a little bit closer. Okay, yes. King G2, right? Play King G2 is the only move. Now what? It's actually, it's easier because you can see the position. If you are doing this without seeing the position, when I've shown this position, the place that most people got hung up on was on this move. Because without seeing the position, they couldn't necessarily find this next move. But be careful.
Rook to H2.
Rook to H2. Why do you say rook to H2?
Because it gives the threat to the king.
Okay, rook to H2 is correct. Okay, rook to H2 is correct. You are protected by the knight on G4, right? There's only one place he can go. He has to go to G1. Okay, who wants to finish it off? Who wants to finish it off? You want to finish it off? Go ahead.
King goes to D2.
Oh, that's what they played in the game, and I was very disappointed. You know, all of you the little sass and castle. I mean, that would be checkmate as well, right? Yeah, they both were, of course. The actual game was King D2 checkmate. But castle is also checkmate. You know, it's an amazing game because there were no wasted moves. On each move, the king was drawn one rank further down, and more new pieces came into the attack. And it's very funny to see a king go from its castle position all the way down to G1 and getting checkmated. Okay, but this all started with the attraction into the double check. Right? But now that I know that this was 1912, which I did not know, it's conceivable that Edward Lasker knew of the Reti game. Because that was played in 1910, the Queen D8 check. You know, because, you know, I find that for every sort of new move, and Chris, you can jump on me if you think I'm wrong, but for every sort of new idea or every sort of brilliant move, most of these guys have seen a similar idea somewhere, and it's that got them thinking in a certain direction, you see? And so I don't think there's anything sort of absolutely new under the sun. It's a question of maybe applying something that already exists to a new situation. So this is the attraction into the double check. Well, and if you ever do this, first of all, don't do it if you're not 100% sure, okay, because you'll just lose your queen, But the idea is, I'll tell you one bit of advice. If you try to use this kind of plan, make sure that the king cannot run backwards, right? If you're sacrificing to pull that king forward, you want to make sure he doesn't go back, because you may not be able to check him when he goes back. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But if he's coming forward, there'll always be somebody who can get there, like a pawn or two. Understand? Okay? So that's a good way of, can the king go back? If you analyze this game, and you think about this game, you'll realize that the king never had a chance to go back. Right? Okay. I'm going to call out the next position, if you can just put it up. Okay. So just take everything off the board, it'll probably be easier. This was not a real game. It was actually a study that was composed, but I'm going to put it in context for you in a moment. So white has a king on c1, queen on h4, rook on c3, knight on f3, bishop on g2. And now the pawns. White pawns a4, b3, c2, that's a pawn chain. And then two more pawns, g3 and h2. Let me make sure you did it right. He's not here.
Yeah.
Poor guy. Pawn chain. Okay, and then pawns on g3 and h2. Take the black pieces off the board. Here's the black one. G3 and H2. This is correct. Okay. Our black pieces. Black king on A6. Black queen on C8. Black rook on H8. Black knight on C6. And black bishop on d5. Come on. Okay. First of all, when you're doing the black pieces, don't mix them with the white pieces. Okay? Because then you have to go through so many extra pieces, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we need a queen on c8. You have the queen?
No.
Do I have the queen? Oh, thank you. Okay. And bishop on d5, I'll put that down for you. And a knight on c6. And now for the pawns. Let me see, you guys got it right? Yeah, that's right. Okay. Okay. Black pawns on black has a pawn chain stretching backwards, a7, b6, c7. A5, sorry, a5, b6, c7. And then d6. And a pawn on g6 and a pawn on h7. Okay, and this is the position. So let me talk about this position first. It's a very difficult position. As I said, it was not played in an actual game. It was a composed study. And it was a very famous composer who's done a lot of really interesting chess compositions. His name was Kasparian, no relation to Garry Kasparov. Uh, Good. If you want to hear him speak, you can come to my conference on December 6th. But, yeah, no, hold on a second. Let me put it in perspective a bit, okay? Then you can tell me what you're going to tell me, all right? Promise I'll listen. So, in keeping with the theme of pulling a king out into the open, you have to admit that that king on A6 looks pretty sheltered right now. You see? And, you know, when you do studies, you kind of work backwards. You get the end position and then you kind of, you know, work backwards from that, right? But what White had noticed was that this diagonal, the A8 to G2 diagonal, was a particularly weak diagonal for black. If we could get that black king on that diagonal, then we could pull him further out into the open. So this whole sequence is based on the idea of pulling that black king onto that diagonal. Okay, now, what were you going to tell me?
I've done this position.
You've done this position.
And I like this one.
You know the solution. Come and tell me the solution. I don't want you to spoil it for everybody. Come and tell me the solution. I'll tell you if you're right. I'm impressed. Okay. What's your rating? 1,050? Okay. There's something wrong with the rating system. You're much stronger than 1,050, okay? But keep studying because you're obviously doing things well. Okay. So what Ane said was that the way you pull the king out into the open, he gave me the first three moves that would do it, and then I'm going to ask the rest of you to find, you know, the remaining moves because it doesn't spoil it in any way. So the first move is rook takes knight. I think you'll agree that black has no choice but to take the rook. Bishop takes rook. Now you play queen c4 check. Yeah, c4. Now, that is a fork on the king and the bishop, right? The only way for the king to make sure that the bishop is protected is to go to b7. Now are you beginning to understand why I am doing this study? Yes. Attraction into a double check. Thank you. Attraction into a double check by sacrificing your queen. Well, he's got to take you. I mean, if he doesn't take you, he said, thank you for the piece, and you're going to beat him anyway on those light squares. So king takes queen. Now, you better play the right double check. If you don't, you're dead. What is the right double check? Tarun? 95. Tell me why that's the right double check. Right, you need to cut the escape square, right? So knight d5 double check cuts. Remember what I said earlier? If you ever sacrifice your queen like this to pull the king out, you want to make sure the king cannot go back, right? So by playing knight d5 double check, you see that you're stopping the king from going back. He cannot go to d7, and of course he cannot retreat on the diagonal. But, so he can keep going forwards, right? Okay, so he has only one square though, right? He has to go to c5. All right, so play queen c5. Now this is where things get interesting, because you don't have a lot of pieces left. And your bishop cannot certainly not check on the light squares. So you may get to this point and say, I don't think this is working. Do you see something? Okay, I like knight to d3. Now let's just pause there for a moment. Knight to d3 check. Please play knight to d3. So notice that what I said earlier holds true. The king cannot retreat, right? There's no retreat. The king has to keep moving forwards. All right, now where's the king going? Okay? He's going to d4. Now the problem is, he's on a dark square. We only have 2 pieces left. One of them is a light square bishop, and you're certainly not going to check him on a dark square. Right? So what do? Did you just make a mistake and you don't have enough firepower left to win this game? What do you think? Oh, you know the answer. Be quiet. Okay. Someone who does not know the answer. And this is one of the reasons I chose this game, by the way. Yes?
On to see.
Doesn't work. Right idea, wrong move. See, sometimes you can have the right idea, but your execution may not be correct. You see? So, but you have the right idea. Now you tell me yourself what is wrong about what you said, and how should you do it differently? Let's give you a chance, okay? Well, start by telling me what's wrong with prince c3 immediately.
You can just take.
Of course, he'll just take it, right? And then you won't even have that pawn left to attack it, right? So whatever you do, you want to make sure that he can't take you, right? Okay. All right. So then what should you do? You wait, I'll nail you with some tough stuff. What's the move? You know, what is very unusual is to, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. What were you going to tell me? King to d2. And tell me why that's correct. I think it's correct, by the way.
Because then it protects the square C3, so then you can push it.
Right. You want to make sure c3 is the move, right? That's why I said to you, right move, right? Right idea, wrong move. Right, c3 is the move you want to play. Because nobody else can attack you on that square. It has to be that pawn. And you set it up with king d2. Congratulations. King d2. And you know, it's very hard in the middle of, several sacrifices and just the king coming out to play a quiet move, threatening checkmate. Okay? But this is the move, and the king, notice, cannot retreat. The knight is guarding the dark squares, the bishop is guarding the light squares. No matter what he does, the king cannot go to this rank, right? And nothing can stop pawn c3. Game over. Okay? I'm not going to do this. The next game you can look in my book for. There's a game I played in, I don't know, it was in the mid-70s in somewhere, I think it was Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where the move that caused him to resign was when I played king b2, and his king was on b4, and I was threatening checkmate with a3 and checkmate with c3 as well. But I had sacrificed a bunch to get into that position. And I had a chance to win his queen, except I didn't even take it because I saw the checkmates. So you can look at that game. It's in my one of my books here. Okay, so you understand this, right? So the degree of difficulty got a little bit harder because in the middle of the sequence, it wasn't a forcing move like all the checks which are like the last game was check, 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 checkmate, right? And the other game was check, check, checkmate, right? But here, you go check, 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 quiet move. You see? But it's, the situation is such that he cannot escape. Okay. Before I do the next game, this, John, is, I cannot see so well. Who is that?
May I ask just a
Yes,
super quick question?
of course.
In retrospect, during this composition, would black have been better served to not go on the diagonal with the king to
Yes,
protect the
but the
bishop?
beauty of the composition was that he never had a choice. See, he could never not go on that diagonal because there was a sacrifice that pulled him into that. He could have, if he saw all this, maybe not accepted the sacrifice, but honestly, he would have been worse if he didn't accept the sacrifice because the light squares were riddled full of holes and he would have destroyed him. So, okay, I want to show you this next game, but should we give them a break? Okay, here we go. Are you ready? White king on G1, white rooks on E1 and C1, white queen on H5, white queen on G5, white bishop on F6, you have the white pieces, come on, white queen on G5, right, white bishop on F6, and white bishop on H5. Okay, and now the pawns. White pawns on A2, B3, C4, D5, and D3. Also pawns on F2, G2, and H4. Good, excellent. All right. Now the black pieces. Black king on H7, black queen on B6, black rooks on G8 and C8, black bishops on H6 and F5, correct? And now for the pawns. Black pawns on A7, B5, C7, D6, D4, F7, and G6. Okay, so take a moment till I think everybody's back so we can get started. So this is a relatively obscure game that I came across during my research. And you can see that black has played the move bishop h6 and trapped white's queen. You see, white's queen has nowhere to go. So what do you do when your queen has nowhere to go? There's something wrong with this?
The pawn should be on G3, right?
The pawn should be on G3. Thank you. No, the pawn's on G2.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. Actually, there's a reason. You will see that like 5 moves down the line.
Okay.
It has to be on G2.
Okay.
That is correct. That is not correct. No, let's put the pawn on G5 here. So, being a kind of a creative player, White realized there's nothing he could do to save his queen. So he decided to take a gamble. And sometimes you have to be practical, you know. So White played the move rook e7. Now I want all of you to put yourselves in black's position. White plays rook e7. How would you react? Talk to me. Yes. You would take, so you're a greedy boy, right? Yeah, okay. Just trying to establish that. So, of course, you could take the queen. You could play bishop takes queen, right? But You know, when your opponent plays a move, you should always consider it with respect. Maybe he has something in mind, right? Why do you think he played rook e7? What is he hoping for? What is he hoping to do later? Yes.
So when you take the queen, and he's going to go and take using the f7 check.
Absolutely correct. He's hoping he'll take the queen, and he's going to play rook takes f7 check. Now, if you're a smart player with black, what should black's answer be? What would you play?
Like put my king into safety, like rook f8 and move my king to king g8.
Okay, okay. But the answer should be rook f8, right? Okay, and the reason I'm setting up this position is to show you not to be in a hurry and not to be greedy. You know, is that queen going to run away and escape? So why do you have to take it now? Right? She's still going to be stuck next move. First, protect against rook takes f7. Take away his play. Right? Don't give him anything. That queen is lost. There's no reason to take that queen right now. The only reason that you would take that queen is if you thought, oh, well, you know, it's a free queen, let me take it. But there's no hurry. That queen has nowhere to go.
And the queen's not free.
I'm sorry?
The queen's not
Yeah, but if you get the queen or bishop, you're happy anyway, right? You know what I mean? So, okay, I wasn't thinking so much that she wasn't free. You know, it's just that you don't have to take her right away. Okay? All right. The correct move would have been rook f8 and defend. Sometimes even in the middle of the greatest attack, you need to take a time out for defense. Okay? Defend and you win the game. But no, look what happened. This is amazing. And now, and after this game, you'll see why I showed you this game. Okay, so he took the queen. And now the fun begins. Okay, now the fun begins. But with another wrinkle, I'm adding a wrinkle to what I have been showing you already with all the different things. At first, now you saw the forced moves, then you saw the forced moves plus the quiet move, right? And we're going to add another wrinkle to this, okay? All right. So, rook takes pawn check. Play rook takes pawn check. And so king h6, right? Okay. All right. I'm just curious as to how you think. So I'm going to ask you a question. Be careful how you answer. You have a choice, right? Tell me your choice.
Bishop takes g5.
Yes, or
Pawn takes.
correct. I want to know what you will play and why. So, Ale over there said that the logical choice for white now, and I agree, is to take that bishop. The question becomes, should we take the bishop with the bishop and say check, or should we take with the pawn and say check?
Or take with the bishop.
I don't know. You tell me, but you have to give me reasons.
So bishop takes d5, king takes h5, rook h7. Oh, that
30 will be closing in 20 minutes.
20 minutes enough for 2 games, don't worry. Yes, hold on a second. Yes.
So if you put the pawn there,
Yes.
it's going to kill the king.
Take the
pawn,
bishop. Oh,
but
or if you try to take the pawn.
yeah, the bishop could kill.
Yes, so if you, whichever way you take, the king cannot take on g5, right? Because the pawn on g5 will be protected. It will be protected either by the bishop or, you know, yeah, he can't take the pawn on g5. Okay? Or if you take with the bishop, then the pawn is protecting the bishop, right? Okay. The big question is how to take this. All right. So, I want you to stick your neck out. I want you to stick your neck out. Give me an answer, one way or the other, because you don't like to be wrong, you like to be right.
Bishop takes g5 because if you do pawn take g5, then when the king runs into the king side, there will be less, there will be more squares for it to run.
So you take this home and analyze, okay? But the correct move is pawn takes. All right? And the correct move is pawn takes because you want the bishop on f6 to be guarding this diagonal. One of the things you want to make sure is also, guarding against moves like rook h8 and stuff like that, okay? But analyze it yourself. You can put an engine on it, look at it. You will understand, okay? Okay, the correct move is this. Of course, the king plays king takes bishop. Now, I told you there's a wrinkle. So now we have, this is actually what happened in the game. White played f3 and black played rook h8, willing to give up one rook to stop, white from playing rook h7 check. So how did white win? Yes, go ahead. Very nice. Let's explain to everybody. That's right. So black stopped rook h7 check, but he couldn't stop it from the other side as well. King f2 simply opens the door for the rook on c1 to go to h1, and this is the end of the game. And black resigns. Understand? Okay. So I want to leave you with them because I've got time only for one more game. And if they'll kick me out.
6 more minutes. We got.
Okay. So for those of you who follow serious chess, maybe the strongest young player in the world today, in my opinion, is the Turkish player Yildiz Khan Erdoğan. Okay? And he's extremely strong. I know the guy who bankrolls him. He's a Turkish businessman. And anyway, this game was played in the World Cup, in the Grand Swiss in Samarkand that just ended. And Erdoğan is playing black against a very strong young Indian grandmaster by the name of Aditya Mittal. And they're both very, very good players. And Mittal gets absolutely clean. Okay, I won't have time for the full game, so let me just give you the position. Okay, because we're trying to set this up. So this game was played just maybe a week ago. And you'll see why I'm showing it to you in this order. Okay, so this is the position that I would like you to set up. 1 second. Let me go back to here. Okay, yeah, let's put this position on. Black king on g8. Let's start with, you're starting with white. Okay, starting with black. Black king on g8. Black queen on f5. Black rook on e8. Black rook on e2. Black bishop on h3. Black pawns on h6, g7, f6, g7, f6, and a5. Okay, now for the white pieces. White king on g1, white queen on b5, white rook on h4, white knight on d2, white pawns on a4, c4, d6, f2, and g3. Let me just look at the position. There's one piece missing. White is missing a rook. White has a rook on f1. Otherwise, that would be a simple back rank game, right? Okay. Very interesting position. So Darkness is playing black, Mital is playing white. Mital is relying on these two connected pass pawns, marching up the board, and it's going to be very difficult to stop them, right? But Darkness has this great attacking idea over here, and he's trying to maybe play a move like rook e1, and then he can get in rook takes, rook check, and maybe get the other rook down, right? So there are lots of strong attacking ideas here. Okay. Meanwhile, black just played queen b5. White just played queen b5, trying to defend by trading queens. Because white realizes that black's best chance is to have the queens on the board. So he's offering a trade of queens. Now, everybody knows basic chess. The attacker does not want to trade queens. The defender would love to trade queens, right? So white is defending, black is attacking. Black does not want to trade queens. He is offering you a queen trade. What will you play? Yes?
Maybe you could do queen takes f2.
Maybe, but don't rush into it. Because he can bring the knight back to f1 and block a back rank check. So I don't see a mate there. You see what I mean? Okay, yes?
Rook takes f2.
So, rule number one, what I tried to show you in the last game was, what's the hurry? What's the hurry? You don't think that there are brilliancies every time. There is no hurry. You just don't want to trade queens. You want to maintain your attacking position, but you don't want to trade queens. How do you maintain your attacking position and not trade queens? Tell me. Give me a move. You don't trade queens, you maintain your attacking position. Yes?
Maybe queen to d3.
Then your queen is, the ideas of queen takes f2, for example, are lost, right? If you go queen to d3. I'd rather keep your queen where, I like the queen where it is. Your queen is also protecting your bishop on h3, right? To move her out can cause problems.
So we could go rook to e5.
Rook to e5, that's what Darkness played. He played rook to e5. Okay, go ahead, play rook to e5.
William will be closing in 10 minutes.
Okay,
Please let us know if we can need assistance as you complete your visit.
okay, now life got really interesting. White played d7. So let's get a second queen. So black played rook takes d2. Rook takes d2, stopping the pawn from queening, right? Well, white said, that's not going to stop me. I'm going to play queen b8 check, king h7, and queen the second pawn. And that position actually happened on the board. I don't think we have a second queen, so yeah, there you go, second queen. We'll put that queen over here, okay? Oops, sorry. Oh, but you don't have one. Oh, you know what? Stand the pawn on his head or something, There you go, it's queen. Okay, all right. Okay, would you believe that this position is completely losing for white? White's got the extra queen and is completely lost. And your Darkness found every single move. In fact, at the end of this game, they said that this game will probably go down in history as the greatest game ever played by a Turkish player. And probably will. Okay, black to play and win. You guys all know what I've been talking about all evening. What did the Darkness play? Yes?
Queen takes f2.
Correct. Queen takes f2 check. He has to accept, right? And then keep going. Then rook e1 check. Okay. Now I want to see who can actually do this before the library closes and without my moving any more pieces. Now you could argue that Darkness didn't have a choice. If he doesn't do this, he loses anyway. So you're kind of being forced into being brilliant. Yes.
So why would move G2, king to G2?
He can't go to G2 because the bishop is guarding it. So he has to go to H2, right?
Yeah.
Okay, H2.
And then E, and then H1 checkmate.
Well, checkmate, king takes rook. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Oh,
And then,
nice idea, but nobody's protecting me. Okay, rook F2 check. King takes bishop. Now, why am I showing you this game? Why am I showing you this game? Why am I showing you this game?
because you can have attraction and double check.
Okay, there's no double check attraction here, but the idea is to push the king out into the open, right? Okay, so now, okay, what's the next move? Okay, turn. Next move for white. Rook H1, of course. Okay, go as far as you can without moving the pieces. Rook H1, keep going. Does he have a choice? He doesn't have a choice. He has to go king G4. Okay, and now what? F5. But I told you, when the king crosses a certain point, the pawns become attackers, right? A pawn F5 check, what must he do? He has to go king H5, and then what do you do? G6 checkmate. And that's how the game ended. And, we can show that on the board. Right, rook check. King G4, pawn check. Look at this. What a finish. 2 queens on the board and he gets slammed in the biggest tournament of the year. In the World Championship elimination contest. Anyway, I got to close, otherwise I will keep going. But all right, thanks for coming here. Thank you. Very good.